The restaurant was softly lit, full of laughter, chatter, and the clinking of wine glasses. Emily sat alone at a corner table, nervously glancing at the clock on the wall. It was supposed to be her first date in 2 years. A blind date set up by her best friend, who swore he was perfect. His name was Daniel, a single father who, according to her friend, was kind, funny, and hardworking. But now, 30 minutes had passed and there was still no sign of him. Emily sighed, stirring her coffee, feeling a familiar sting of disappointment. Just as she reached for her purse, thinking she'd call it a night, she heard tiny footsteps rushing toward her. 2 little girls, maybe 6 years old, stood beside her table, identical twins with curly brown hair, blue eyes, and matching pink dresses. "Are you Miss Emily?" one of them asked shyly. Emily blinked, confused. Yes?" The girls exchanged relieved smiles. "Good. Daddy's sorry he's late," said the other, holding out a small paper bag. "He told us to give you this." Emily took the bag, still trying to process what was happening. Inside was a note and a single white daisy. The note read, "Hi, Emily. I'm running a bit late. Please don't leave. I promise I have a good reason. Hope this little gift makes up for it. Daniel." Emily couldn't help but smile. "Well," she said softly, looking at the girls, "you two must be my dates for now." They giggled, sliding into the chairs across from her. "Daddy said you like chocolate cake," one whispered. Emily laughed. "He did he?" The waiter, amused, brought over a small cake, and soon the table was full of giggles and frosting smudges. The twins, Lily and Lila, told her about their cat, their favorite cartoons, and how they once tried to bake cookies, but used salt instead of sugar. By the time Daniel arrived, slightly out of breath, tie crooked, holding a bouquet of daisies, Emily was already laughing harder than she had in years. "I'm so sorry," he said, setting the flowers down. "My babysitter canceled last minute, and I couldn't find anyone else. I didn't want to stand you up, so..." He gestured toward his daughters, who beamed proudly. "We came too!" Emily grinned. "You sent the perfect ambassadors," Daniel exhaled in relief. "I was afraid you'd be mad." "I was," she teased. Until they showed up with cake. They all sat together, and the evening unfolded with unexpected warmth. Daniel was genuine. Not the polished type she was used to, but real. He told stories about balancing work and fatherhood, about losing his wife in an accident 4 years ago, and how the twins had become his entire world. Emily listened intently, her heart softening with every word. "You must be exhausted," she said. He smiled wearily. "Some days, yeah. But then I look at them, and I remember what's worth it." The twins had by now started drawing on napkins, showing Emily their art. One picture had stick figures labeled Daddy, Lila, Lily, and Miss Emily. Daniel blushed when he saw it. "Wow, they move fast," he said jokingly. Emily laughed, but a small flutter warmed her chest. It felt right. As the night ended, he walked her to her car, holding the twins' hands. "Thanks for not running off," he said quietly. "Most people wouldn't have stayed." "Most people," she replied softly. "Don't get flowers from 2 little angels before dinner." He smiled, a tired, grateful smile that lingered with her long after she drove away. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The image of Daniel, his gentle eyes and nervous charm, replayed in her mind. But more than that, it was the twins. Their innocence, their laughter, their warmth. She hadn't realized how lonely she'd been until they filled the silence. The next morning, she found herself smiling at her phone, typing a message. "Hope the little artist got some sleep. I had fun. Maybe next time we can all go to the park?" Seconds later, his reply came. "They're already asking when they'll see you again. And yes, we'd love that." A week later, they met again, this time at a park near the river. The twins raced ahead, squealing as Daniel and Emily followed with coffee in hand. "You're good with them," he said, watching as Emily helped the girls braid flowers into crowns. "I used to volunteer at a kids' camp," she said. "They remind me of what joy looks like." Daniel smiled softly. "I forgot what that felt like for a while." She looked at him. "Then maybe it's time you remember." As the weeks turned into months, their bond grew stronger. Emily found herself becoming part of their little world. Weekend picnics, movie nights, messy pancake mornings. The twins started calling her Miss Emmy, and Daniel, well, he looked at her like someone who had finally found peace. One rainy afternoon, while the girls were painting, Daniel turned to her. "You know," he said quietly, "I never thought I'd meet someone who could make them laugh like this again." Emily smiled. "They made me laugh too. Guess we all needed each other." He took her hand gently. "You stayed that night," he said. "Most wouldn't have." "You sent two adorable reasons to," she teased. He laughed, eyes glistening. "Emily, I think you were meant to walk into our lives." She didn't reply. She didn't need to. The warmth in his eyes said everything. Outside, the rain kept falling softly, but inside that little home, laughter and love filled the air. 2 years later, in that same restaurant where their story began, Daniel waited nervously at the same table. The twins, now a little taller, sat beside him, wearing matching flower crowns. When Emily walked in, dressed in white, the twins ran to her, shouting, "Mommy!" The waiter smiled knowingly as Daniel stood, holding a single white daisy, just like the first one. "Emily," he said, his voice trembling, "you turned one awkward blind date into the best thing that ever happened to me. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. "Yes," she whispered. The restaurant erupted in cheers as the twins jumped with joy. "We knew it!" they shouted. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her close. It felt like coming home. The world outside went on, busy, loud, indifferent. But at that table, everything had come full circle.